they approach Oswald and Clay that just lays it all out. Like, this is what we have. And, what are you going to do about it? Like, this is what you're going to do.
You can either help us or we can introduce you to JoJo. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you are watching part 2 of tonight's 3-part show. We've just finished part 1 where we did a tasting of Wild Turkey Longbranch Bourbon. And Ken, I think you put it perfectly. Where would you rank the Longbranch?
Yeah, I think it's a great drinkable bourbon. I think that from a flavor profile perspective only, I feel like, a lot of the ones that we've tasted and sampled on the show and reviewed, they have a really deep, wide flavor profile. There's a lot going on, very complex. This one I feel like nails it from like here to here, and the spectrum on it is more finite. But I think it's very drinkable. The flavor's good. It's just not as...
Yeah, it's a little one note.
Yeah, a little one note. That's a good way to put it. So
yeah,
I'm enjoying
it. I would agree. There's nothing offensive. It's very drinkable. I like it. But yes, it is a little more one note. And here's the thing. Would I turn it away or turn it down? Absolutely not. But when I have to choose what I'm going to buy at the price point that they sell this at, there are better bourbons.
Totally agree. I agree.
Yep.
Well, you gotta pay Matthew. I mean, come on. I mean, really.
It's true. It's true. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we jump into tonight's episode of Sons, I want to remind everyone, please like and subscribe. Click the little bell in the upper top right of your page so you don't miss any future shows. And then be sure to leave us your questions and comments in the comment section below, or email your questions to us at ask@bourbonbros. Once again, that's BROS.TV. And if your question doesn't suck, we may answer it on a future show. All right, Ken, let's get into tonight's discussion of Sons of Anarchy, Season 1, Episode 13, titled The Revelator.
Wow, we're finally here. It's a great episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the original air date, November 19, 2008. We're still in 2008.
Okay, man, we're still in 2008. That was a busy year for Season 1.
Yes, and again, like the last episode, this one was written by Kurt Sutter. I read through the synopsis of the episode and way too much detail, so I've pared it down. I don't want to give away the whole show, but I've got a very kind of abbreviated synopsis that I'll share with you.
Okay.
And then I want to get your thoughts on the episode. So in terms of synopsis, again, if somebody's been living under a rock, they've not actually watched the episode, we'll frame it for you. Jax consoles Opie, who blames his decision to return to Sam Crow as the reason for Donna's death. The guilt of Cohn's murder triggers Tara's instinct to run, which then prompts Jax to finally tell Tara how he really feels.
Mm-hmm.
Piney wants revenge for Donna's death and decides to take matters into his own hands. Leroy makes a pretty compelling argument that the Niners had nothing to do with Donna's death.
Mm-hmm.
Hale reaches out to Jax and tells him that he suspects that Clay is guilty of ordering Opie's murder. Clay convinces Oswald to provide him intel on the location of the witness that will testify against Bobby and Opie. Jax confronts Clay about Donna's murder. Jax attempts to stop the murder of the witness, and then things escalate between Jax and Tig,
Mm-hmm.
which we know that's been brewing for a while.
Yeah, it sure has.
And then Sam Crow attends Donna's funeral service, and Jax arrives late.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that, but we'll leave it there for now. So Ken, I remember last week after we wrapped up episode 12, I had asked you if you'd watched the finale yet, and you had not, and I had.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously have now. What were your impressions of the finale?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great ending to the season. I can't at this point after watching this again. I mean, I've seen it years ago, but I can't wait to get on to what's next because I can't recall how the next season starts off. So, but I thought there was a lot that happened in this episode with Jax in the way he feels, what he's felt, and what he's been dealing with the entire series so far. That kind of comes to a head, and we'll get into that. But I enjoyed it. I think from I don't know, my perspective, I thought that the last episode was a little bit more intense, but I think this did a better job wrapping up all the elements of what we've seen so far. Is that fair?
Yeah. I think from an intensity and edge of your seat perspective, you're right. What I liked about this episode, and yes, there's an aspect of we've already seen all 7 seasons before. And so you already know everything that happens on the show. And yes, there are some episodes that we've not gotten to yet that will put this to shame.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I want to be really clear about that. But in terms of a season finale, no, it was not necessarily an edge of your seat, but it's wrapping everything up that has been building through the season. It's teeing up that season 2. And I think what struck me the most about this episode is, we're 13 shows into a new series. Everyone's kind of settled into their character. And we're now coming to the kind of crescendo of season 1. The acting in this episode is off the charts.
Yeah, I did notice that. There were a few key moments, and I'm sure we'll get into them, but where I was kind of, I had to catch my breath. I'm like, wow, that was really well communicated.
Yes. And a lot of the things that have kind of been brewing over several episodes, it comes to a head in this episode. So there's not that there's any major, oh my gosh moments, but there's some real satisfaction about things finally coming to a head that have been brewing in the background. And that's kind of how I left it. Is I felt really satisfied with the finale, and I was very eager to get to season 2, episode 1.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Now, did we have any new characters introduced in this episode?
I don't think so. I mean, Opie's mother was there, but she's been in the other ones, right?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think we did either.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
All right, so let's quickly kind of tee up the major storylines, and then let's dig into our kind of top moment. So we have the club wanting retaliation for Donna's murder. Mm-hmm. We have Piney, who is not waiting around and wants to take matters into his own hands.
Right.
We have Sam Crow, who is eager to find the witness that will testify and put Bobby and Opie away. We've got Jax, who's trying to get to the truth behind Donna's murder. We have the funeral, right? Donna's services. And then we also have Gemma, who has discovered the journal and is starting to figure out what's happening with Jax.
Yeah, that's a good summary. I can't think of anything you missed out on.
So let's go right into our top moments. I'll let you kick things off. Give me your first moment of the episode that really stood out to you.
I think the opening, there's a few things going on here. Jax is visiting Opie right at the beginning, which was chilling to me. That was chilling. I mean, he shows up to kind of show his support, and the kids are in the backyard. They're on the swing set. Opie's obviously distraught. Jax shows us.
And real quick, Ken, I want to let you finish that thought, but I want to take it back up a notch because you said something that I agree with. And before you get into the details, we've talked a lot about the cold opens, and they've been great. This is a different kind of cold open. Like Kurt Sutter brought it down a notch.
It's a slower roll, isn't it? It's a slower roll.
Yes, exactly. Well put. It's a slower roll. It's more dramatic, but yet it's still gripping in its own way.
It
And,
is.
and there's basically three major things happening in the cold open, and we'll cover each one, but continue with Jax visiting Opie.
Yeah, I mean, to me, before we get into the other two components or the two other discussions that are going on in that opening, I just thought and I just felt I felt from the last episode going into this episode, just knowing that the loss and the impact on the children and seeing them on the swing set and Opie explained to Jax what has happened, overnight. That his son doesn't really get it yet. It's just you feel the loss, you feel for those children, and that comes up later again as well. But the other thing that's happening is at Clay and Gemma's house.
Right.
There's their discussion there, and then there's also Unser having a discussion with Hale, or the other way around. Like Hale is really leading the discussion with Unser, in my opinion.
Yeah, so let's talk about those. And you've already kind of touched on Jax visiting Opie. I just want to add one thing, and then we can kind of move to Clay and Gemma. One of the things I loved, and these are subtle things, but you can tell when Jax walks into the backyard, right? He's been very respectful towards Mary. And it's very easy for Opie's mom to blame Jax and the Sons of Anarchy as being the cause of this, right? And you see that almost apprehension from Jax, not knowing what he's going to get. I love that. But when you see Jax walk into the backyard, you can tell, like, Opie is ignoring the world. But at the moment that he sees Jax, it's both a friend and it's VP. And he gets his ass out of the chair. He shows respect and he gives his friend a hug.
Right.
And what I saw there was both the kind of unwritten protocol of Jax being VP, and it's also the fact that you see your friend there and it breaks you out of that trance and you're happy to have him there. And it's such a subtle aspect in that scene, but the fact that Opie doesn't stay sitting really resonated with me.
That he got up. You feel that added both
Yes.
the friendship, because I felt that bond and that friendship, and these guys are tight and they go back a long way, and I see the support that Jax is trying to give him. But
Yes.
you also saw the element of, hey, this is the VP and I got to respect that.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was a decision by Ryan to like get up or whether that was a note given to him, but I just liked what it represented. Of in a brief moment, you put your own feelings aside and you get your ass out of the chair and you show respect, and you're also glad to see your friend. But it would have been very easy for him just to stay sitting. So I found the choice both interesting and really compelling. And again, I tend to really appreciate those little moments. He could have stayed seated and it would have been still a great scene.
You wouldn't have blamed him at all.
Yeah. But I really liked that he got up and gave Jax a hug.
Good catch. I didn't really read that, but that's a good read.
So move us to Clay and Gemma, because this is a great scene as well.
Yeah, so they're at the table at their house, and Clay's obviously broken up, and Gemma sits down, and she asks him,
"You're upset last night. Was that our mistake?" Oh, Jesus.
Clay kind of, in my opinion, confirmed it without actually confirming it.
Which, again, I love. Again,
Yeah,
I don't know if this was Ron Perlman or a note, but that uneasy shift in the chair without saying anything, and that tells Gemma everything she needs to know.
Yeah, maybe there was a Post-it note somewhere hanging on the set, but he did a great job. It was perfect. He was like, yeah, he said, she said, what does Jax know? And he said, Jax knows what everyone else knows. This is minor retaliation.
Yep.
And so he breaks apart. She kind of flips onto him and says, do you know what this means? Or something to that effect. And he broke down and said, "Do you think I wanted this?" And she really quickly, I like the way that she kind of came back by his side, because he was breaking down, and she kind of regrouped him and showed her support and said,
The puppet
"Hey,
master.
the puppet master that she is," because she's feeling like he's falling apart and losing control, and that we'll get to more. We'll see more of that later, but
Yes.
yeah, that happens. That's what she kind of feels initially. At the same time, she regroups him, tells him, "Hey, you need to be strong. Get up. Be there for the club."
Yeah, I found so many little moments in that scene, because up until Gemma asks him, he's carrying this burden that no one else knows about except he and Tig. And he can't break down in front of Tig, right? So he's just got all this bottled up.
Yeah.
And so when Gemma acknowledges that she understands and realizes that he was part of it, it gives him license to finally break down and
Let it go.
reveal how he's feeling. And then as quickly as that starts, Gemma basically tells him,
You feel all that, baby. You feel it here. That's right. You walk out that door, you be the man they all need you to be.
I took from that too that these are now the three people that know about what really happened. So it was just Clay and Tig. Now she's in on it. She's in the know.
Yes.
She's in the know, and nobody else is.
but my interpretation of the way that Ron Perlman chose to play that, again, I don't know if this was him or notes he received, but Clay as a character, he's wanting to be vulnerable and break down. And Gemma is basically saying, you can do that, but get your shit together because you're president of this club.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't the tough talk he wanted or needed in that moment. And so he gets up and leaves.
Yeah.
And I love those subtleties in that moment where he's wanting to be consoled. Gemma doesn't really give him that. And so he just gets up and walks away.
Another great catch.
It is a really, really great scene. Because it's tearing him apart.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. He didn't want that to happen, but
Yeah.
it happened. And the other point in the opening that they panned to was Unser and Hale's discussion back at the.
Yeah, and Hale is just incensed.
He is. Well, walk us through that one, because he's walking. He's the straight on the straight and narrow. He wants to do the right thing. He kind of realizes that Unser is kind of not really as straight as you want him to be, right? And they differ there.
Yes, and I think for Hale, up until this point, he doesn't like it, but he's been accepting the way things are, right? Which is basically his hands are tied. But now Donna has died, and Opie has lost his wife, and the kids have lost their mother. And
he's seen it. He knows.
And he so badly wants Hale to take action. Like this, if nothing else, this should prompt you to take action.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you understand it from Unser's perspective. The man's dying from cancer. He's just trying to survive.
I think he says he wants to leave something for his wife and kids.
Yeah.
And
you can't blame him.
No, he's struggling with that, trying to explain it. So you see also that Hale kind of understands that.
Yes.
But still knows it isn't right.
That's right. Yeah, and it really sets up the entire episode.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like this whole episode is really about Donna's death and the witness that is going to testify against Bobby and Opie. That's really the crux of this episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so move us on to the next point, because we're already running over in terms of pacing. So move us on to point 3, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a major point, but it's something I think the foundation needs to be laid for what happens later in the episode. But I forget the name of the officer and who he's affiliated with.
Oh, that's the attorney.
That's right. Because he He at the end of it, he asked him if he can have his office call
Right.
and make payment for that. So you're right, it's his attorney. But he shows up and tells the club that there's an eyewitness that's going to be identified at the end of the day.
U.S. Attorney is releasing the details on the witness at 5 o'clock. 501 ATF is presenting their case against Opie Winston for Hefner's murder. Bring him in for a lineup. From what the prosecution's shared, he's probably not going back home.
Which could potentially mean that Opie could be arrested before he even gets to attend his wife's funeral.
Yeah, what a mess that would have been. What maybe would it be for the kids, right? And everyone else involved.
And you just know from Agent Stahl, like she'd potentially show up at the funeral and arrest Opie.
Totally. She would be up for that. So after that news breaks loose, that Clay and the club realize that they have to, at all costs, find this witness and get rid of this witness. And that's kind of the premise for the rest of the episode.
Yes. And they first meet with Trammell, right? And try to pump him for the information.
They do.
And Trammell basically discloses there's no way in hell.
Yeah.
And they need to go higher up the food chain.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be able to get a name anyway. They need to get a case number because it wouldn't be any information they would have by name. They have to find the case number before they can get any more information.
That's right.
So,
and Clay immediately knows who to go to.
He knows it, and he's already got the leverage there.
Yes, he does.
So
the package comes back into play.
It does. And so you see them fast forward to showing up at Oswald, the real estate developer of the town, right?
Going back to Funtown. Yeah,
it's going back to Funtown. So they saved all the information and all their fingerprinted knives and where the body's buried and everything. And so they approach Oswald, and Clay that just lays it all out. Like, this is what we have, and what are you going to do about it? Like, this is what you're going to do.
You can either help us or we can introduce you to JoJo.
I need your help, Elliot. And if you refuse, I'm going to turn all three of those items over to Unser. And the only thing you'll be riding is a big black dude named JoJo.
JoJo, correct. So Oswald has to make some calls to his contacts to be able to get the case number for them to take it forward. But they show up there, and I don't know if you recall this, but Tig's character, I mean, the last episode, he was deathly afraid of dolls, right?
Yes.
In this episode, he's very fond of horses.
Beautiful animal, huh? Yeah.
Can I tell you something?
Well, if it involves you and a horse, I'd rather not hear it.
And Clay cuts him off. He does not want to hear the warped side of Tig.
If it involves horses, human horses, I don't want to know about it.
Yes.
But anyway, to pull this thought in where this is going is that they leave with the information they need. They're now able to get the information and provide it to who goes? Chibs, Happy,
Chibs, and Tig.
And Tig to go now off the witness so that they can get the case dropped effectively against Bobby. I will say that they left with their information, but they didn't hand over the knife or any of that evidence to Oswald. So I have a feeling that's going to come back at a later episode.
For as savvy as Oswald is and as successful as he's been, very poor negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
Because Clay basically says,
"What about that knife?"
Oh, it's still our secret. Don't worry, we'll keep it safe for you.
Evidence we used.
We'll take care of it.
And you can see the look on Oswald's face that he's screwed up in a big way because he didn't negotiate that up front.
Right.
So all of that started at church where, they talked about the fact that the attorney shared with them that they have this witness, they're going to charge Opie. It may even be before the funeral, right? So in church, they're discussing what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of that, they're also discussing Donna's death and what they're going to do about that. And so the topic that I want to discuss is Piney is ready for retribution.
He's more than ready.
I love everything about this where they're wondering how Opie, like they're concerned about Opie and they're asking how he's doing.
All clear. How is he?
I don't know.
How do you think he is?
Right? And then when he challenges Clay and Clay looks at Jax, who's vice president, Piney's like, what are you looking at him for? I'm the one talking to you.
Yep.
Like, protocol be damned. We're going to deal with this, and we're going to deal with it now.
Right. He says, hey, if this happened to your family, then you'd have like half of all the other charters here, hunting down this person. And
he's right.
He's right. He's absolutely right. But Clay says, this did happen in my family. Well, kind of, but they're clearly not taking this seriously than Piney feels it should be taken.
And so Piney ultimately decides, if I can't rely on you, I'll just go do it myself.
He's going rogue.
And Jax has the wherewithal to send Half Sack, although I don't know that Half Sack was the best person to send. But he does send Half Sack to keep an eye on him. Mm-hmm. I love the little momentary comedic relief where Piney says,
brush up on your stealth skills. You did everything but wave at me when you were following.
Yeah, I did wave at you, actually. I was getting a little lost coming off the 580 there. I was hoping you'd slow down.
It was really good. But then they walk into a bar that is run by the One-Niners.
Mm-hmm.
And things take a turn in a hurry.
They do. You can feel the tension. You can feel you're not one of us. Why are you guys here? Everyone in the in the bar is a different ethnicity than they are.
Yes, and I love when the guy walks up to Piney. Piney's not threatening, right? Like he's an old man, like to these kids.
He's got his oxygen wire on, like he's got his tubes there.
And the kid goes,
"Want to get yourself killed, old man?"
Well, I'm ready for that. Are you?
So good, like just perfect for that situation. And you got poor Half Sack who's stuck in the middle. And this is one of my favorite parts of the episode, which is when Jax arrives and sees Piney holding this member of the One-Niners at gunpoint. Half Sack kind of, I don't know what to do. I've done what I can. And you've got Jax who's going in and trying to figure out how to navigate all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much that happens in a short amount of time.
Right. At first, I remember Leroy shows up because they wanted to get Leroy there. That's what Piney wanted. And Jackson works out with Leroy that, hey, if I'm able to disarm Piney, we'll get out of here with our lives, right? Promise me that. And that's a deal that's effectively made.
And the actor that plays Leroy Wayne, his name is Torrey Kittles. Phenomenal performance here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Everything from the laugh of almost this appreciation that Jax is showing respect enough to question whether he's going to get out of there alive. And you see that Leroy realizes he has all the power and almost laughs to himself and then tells Jax yes. And then Piney does everything he can to jeopardize that.
Everything.
He uses language that just should not be used.
Agreed.
And again, you have Leroy who basically says to Jax, that happens one more time, this arrangement we have is off the table. It was really perfect. And then Piney still keeps going. And then you get what I call the moment in this scene.
Your trouble with us. You work that out of your system? Or does this beef keep growing?
Why do you keep talking about beef?
Piney, let me handle this or I will kill you myself.
We're at episode 13. The actors have found their character. And that's why I said the acting is so strong. Charlie Hunnam as Jax in this episode is so good.
He is. And if you compare that to, the first episode of the season where you can definitely see the difference in how he's grown.
Absolutely. And the way he says it, he's so desperate to find out what actually happened. And he's so frustrated with Piney jeopardizing that and interrupting. You see all of that in his response. You see the anger that Jax has. And then it cuts to Chibs and Half-Sack. And you see the looks on their faces that basically says, we've never seen Jax this upset. Mm-hmm. And say something like that to an elder.
Was this before? I can't recall the chronology, but was this after Jax had the discussion with Hale?
I think it was before.
Okay, so
I think
can't
they
go
get
there.
this, which is basically you have Leroy going, "What the hell are they talking about?"
We didn't do this,
right? And then at the end, you go, "Do you really think that if we roll into Charming and kill this white woman, we'd all be sitting around talking about it right now? Like we'd let you in here?" And you see Jax and Piney look at one another. And it's that realization of, well, if it's not them, and it's pretty clear it's not, then who?
Yeah. Maybe something else is going on here.
Yes. All right. Let's finish up the first half of the episode. Take us through point number 5.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't a major point, but it's something that jumps back to the episode. The scene in Oswald's where Tig is having a discussion with Clay.
Oh, are you talking about where Tig confesses to Clay what happened?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was it was very powerful, very well acted by Tig. The most serious I've ever seen him. It was chilling to me. I felt it, but he comes clean to Clay and tells him, "Hey, Opie basically saved my life."
Opie, he saved me from getting my head blown off. And then I had a clear shot at him. And I couldn't take it.
And you think he'd want to keep that a secret, but he didn't. He poured it out.
Damn you. You're right. The last scene with Jax and Piney and Leroy, it's not my favorite. This is my favorite.
This has got to be it.
Oh,
Kim
Coates. The
incredible.
Performance is amazing here.
Yeah, just his eyes, just everything was just really well done. And then he actually adds to that and says, "That's the reason why I shot through the back window of the truck, because I didn't want to look in his eyes.
Yeah.
So that's why he didn't know it was Donna there. So that was all intentional because of what happened. Like he didn't want to kill him."
That's right. And that's why I love this episode so much, is you're right. It's not any kind of major edge of your seat cliffhanger.
No heart pumping.
Just so strong. It's
strong.
everything coming together. All the actors have found their character. It's just a fantastic episode. Even if it's a couple of beats below what would be this action-packed edge of your seat episode, it just, there's so much gravity to it.
Definitely.
All right. That's going to do it for part 2. We could talk another 2 hours on these topics.
We could easily.
It's hard to keep things moving along. There's so much here. But do remember to like and subscribe. Do check out our channel for more shows. And then obviously come back for part 3, where we will continue enjoying some Wild Turkey Longbranch Bourbon, and we will wrap up our discussion of Sons of Anarchy Season 1, Episode 13, titled The Revelator. Stay with us.